right,
Okay.
I'm going, it's now recording.
Okay. Call to order this board meeting of the Garrison Union Free School District, Thursday, June 18th, 2020. Dusty, can you call the roll?
Sure. Jocelyn Apicello.
Here.
David Gelber. James Hawk. Courtney McCarthy.
Here.
Matthew Spicer.
Here.
And Sarah Tormey.
Here.
Terrific. Next up, the Pledge of Allegiance. Dusty, you going to do the flag thing? Or you don't have it today? It's okay. Either way. Okay. All righty. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. So we're here to ratify. One of the things that we have to do today is ratify a vote. I need a motion to ratify the results from the June 16th, 2020 budget vote.
So moved.
Seconded.
Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Garrison Union Free School District ratifies and accepts the voting results of the budget vote and board elections canvassed by absentee ballot on June 16th, 2020 as follows. Proposition 1. Shall the sum of $11,370,216 be appropriated to meet the estimated expenditures of Garrison Union Free School District for school purposes for the fiscal year July 1, 2020 through June 30th, 2021, and the necessary tax be levied for same upon the taxable property of the school district after its first deducting the monies available from state aid and other sources? The yes votes were 346. The no votes were 165. And the board candidates that were elected, well, I think, we just have to do the vote now, right, Dusty?
Yeah, that you're just accepting the results of the vote.
Okay, the results of the budget vote, right? So all in favor say aye. Do you accept the votes?
Aye.
Aye.
Nays, abstentions, and the ayes have it. Board candidates and number of votes received. Are we ready? Jocelyn Apicello comes in with 396. That means that her term will last for 3 years. Right, exactly. Am I right about that? I'm right about that. Courtney McCarthy came in with 392 votes, which means her 1 year, right? Her term will last for 1 year before she has to seek reappointment. And Matt Spicer, 395 votes. Someone was on the fence. And which means that you will receive a two-year term. Is that right, Matt? You're a 3-year term, Matt? Okay, great. So in the Byzantine electoral politics of school boards, we have found this very interesting process. So Jocelyn Apicello will have her seat for 3 years. Matt Spicer will have a seat for 3 years. And Courtney McCarthy will have her seat for 1 year. Okay, that's how it goes. Congratulations, Jocelyn, Courtney, and Matt. Round of applause for all y'all. Excellent. Do we have to vote on those, Dusty?
Yeah, you did vote on the budget. So if you want to
Do we have to accept the votes?
accept the results.
Okay, we never did that before. So I need a motion to accept the results of the election.
Well, first I want to know how much money Jocelyn had to spend to get those extra 4 votes.
Well, it was really one vote.
One penny, since
Yeah.
just that one.
I bet you Jocelyn thought I better vote for myself, and Matt thought I can't possibly vote for myself, and that was the difference.
Too generous as well.
That's right. Okay, so all in favor for accepting the results and for Jocelyn, Courtney, and Matt to rejoin the board, say aye.
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 Nays. Abstentions? And the ayes have it. We're in. Excellent. Item number 3, President's announcements. I don't have many announcements other than to say to Garrison that we respect your vote, and I think the administration and the staff and the personnel are grateful for the support that you've demonstrated toward the district, and we will pursue the budget with as much fiscal oversight as we have in the past. We also recognize that the coming year might be difficult, and I would imagine that we're going to, that the budget will bear some scrutiny over the course of this year in a manner that we haven't seen for quite some time. So I think this year, right away, we'll be looking at the budget with the expectation that we will have to be as restrained as possible in the near future, within the year. So we're great. I think everyone is grateful to have the flexibility. I know that Mr. Albano is thrilled to have strong support, as this is an overwhelming majority to support the school, and will continue to do so. So we enjoy that support very much, and we appreciate it. The only other announcement that I would make is that I want to just remind folks, if Dr. Jackson doesn't remind you, to, if you're interested in joining the Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Task Force, which will be tackling some of the questions of race within the district, outside the district, and among communities. I think it'd be great that you show some interest and write a letter to Dr. Jackson and Mr. Albano demonstrating your interest, so that that task force can form, receive its charge, and get underway. This is obviously a very powerful moment in our history as a country, and a very powerful moment in our community. And I think we owe it to everybody to rise to the expectations and do the necessary work to make sure that we are doing what we can to bring about the most amount of equity and inclusion and justice for our pupils in this district and our staff, of course. Okay, I think that's about it. Dr. Jackson, superintendent's remarks.
Thank you, James. I'll just pick up right there then and say, yes, please send me any interest. The responses have been very moving. People who have responded have really been eloquent in terms of their passion for this topic and their commitment to really working to move us forward. So I really appreciate the responses that have come through. And certainly this week and shortly, please, I would like to pull that together. Carl and I will spend some time, Mr. Albano and I, discussing those letters, and we'll move forward. So thank you. I have 2 thank yous, well, actually 3 probably. First, just Dusty Callow for all the work on making this vote happen. I remember back when we were wondering, could we even get machines? And David said we could do paper votes, and everyone said, you know what that would take? It took a lot of organization, a lot of planning, a lot of playing out all those scenarios to make sure we knew what we were doing. And for her first time doing a vote in the district, this was not the easiest. So I really want to thank her and her team, and I'll let her thank her team for the leadership she has shown and the integrity in moving us forward on that vote. Second, I want to thank Sue Hutter, because we wouldn't have a vote to put forward if Sue did not put together a budget for us and put all that effort into checking revenues and having discussions and looking at all of the financial aspects. So a vote that goes forward in terms of expenditures, people, time, and money, I always say expenditures, is really a commitment on the part of many. And for that, I want to thank the Garrison community for their support. I know it's been said, but from someone who is here for a very short time, the outpouring of support, not only in the vote, but during the process, was commendable for all. So those were really the 2 the thank yous I want to do before we get on to the rest of the agenda.
Yeah, Dusty, can you take a moment and thank the people who participated in the vote, so we give them a proper shout out, as they say?
Yes, and having been put into the situation that we were, and only been in my office for 2 weeks before we had to close the building for COVID, it's been hard to get to know my colleagues and my coworkers. So I wanted to thank Kimberly Schaffler, Patricia Mars, Diana Medviner, Adriana Morante, and Sarah Lasardi, who were my election workers on Tuesday, and they did a fantastic job. They were great at taking direction and also sharing feedback because this hasn't been the standard of how I've run a budget vote in the past. So there were a lot of unknowns. I also want to thank the Garrison community for being so kind to me. I know that we had a couple of hiccups along the way. Other districts certainly had a lot more problems than we did. I think we had to jump on things in Garrison. But anytime a community member called or emailed with a question, they were very supportive, very understanding, let me explain, and listened, and very satisfied in the end. So I just wanted to thank the community as well for being a support to me. So thank you all.
Yeah, and I think that's great, Dusty, and thanks to everybody that you mentioned, because it's really important to know that those folks have to come and hand count those ballots, right? So I also wanted to point out that I wanted to thank the Garrison Post Office, which we usually don't have to thank for these elections, for facilitating this process. I know that Dusty had gone down a couple times. Am I right, Dusty?
Yes, and also our custodial staff also made trips down to the post office, and everyone really pitched in as a team, making sure that we were checking our mail at least a couple of times a day, and certainly on the day of the vote right up until the closing of the post office. So it was really helpful. Everybody it was super.
And we have a letter to hand deliver to the post office thanking them as well. So
Oh, that's great. That's great. They had to be on top of it because of the window that they had, and they've got so many things coming their way. You know, it's the postal service in this country, in this community, is phenomenal work. You know, if anyone's ever lived abroad, you know how lucky we are to have the postal service that we do have, and it's fantastic. So I wanted to thank them because they've been under undue and extensive stress the last few months. So thank them. Okay. Dr. Jackson, you have more comments, more remarks, or are you good?
I'm good.
All right. All right, terrific. Consent agenda. I need a motion to accept items B and C on the consent agenda.
So moved.
Seconded.
Be it resolved, the Board of Education of the Garrison Union Free School District approves the consent agenda, items 5B through C. That would be approve the minutes for their last meeting and approve the summer hours of Patricia Martz. Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Nays? Abstentions? And okay, then we're good. Action items. Okay, first one up, obviously, this is always a difficult moment. Last week we accepted the retirement of Kevin Keegan, and Kevin had been with us for 34 years, and a pleasure he was to work with. This week we're accepting the resignation of Chris Caliendo, who's been with us. Someone check me with that. Is that 8 years? Maybe something like that. 6. Okay. And Chris, of course, went to school here. And he's taught at other schools as well. He is going off. He took a position with the Rye School District, and you know, as much as we regret a teacher leaving us, who's in good standing and has been a wonderful teacher for a lot of our students, we also wish him the best of luck and want to support him in whatever he thinks is best for his career. You know. The selfish part of me wants to hold everybody that's doing super well. You know, you want to hold on to every employee that's doing a great job, and we have so many employees that are doing good jobs and wonderful jobs. But at the same time, you have to support every member of every employee to be the kind of worker they want to be, to live the career they want to have, and to make the decisions that are necessary for them to thrive. And, you know, that's where we are with this particular employee. And, you know, Chris has been a part of this community for a long time. And, you know, Chris will always be part of this community, I think. And that's, I don't say that, you know, when Chris's dad passed, I went to his funeral, and I often go walking with his uncle in the foundry with his dog Buddy. So like, I know the Caliendo family differently than I think many people, but I just wanted to say thank you to Chris for his service. If anyone else would like to say anything about Mr. Caliendo before we vote? Yes, sir, David.
You know, Chris is really a special teacher. And I mean, my older daughter worked with him for 3 years, had him for 3 years. And I am certain that 30 years from now, when someone asks her, which teachers really affected your life, Chris Caliendo will be one of the first names that she responds with to that question. And I'm really sorry we're losing him. I think he did an amazing job here. I think that his embrace of the debate program was exceptional. And I have to just say that my younger daughter is a little heartbroken that she's going into 6th grade and won't be able to study with Chris Caliendo. Thanks, Chris.
Okay, yes, Courtney?
I honestly wish I could just second everything David said. I've got 2 kids in the exact same age group, same situation. My eldest will also look back and reflect so fondly on her time with Chris Caliendo and what an inspiration he was and how much he challenged her. And if he's watching, that she will be forever haunted by the multitude of political cartoons that he had those kids do. But he challenged the whole grade and embraced a huge amount of curriculum, not to mention current events. Whenever something came up in the news and we discussed it at home, the first words out of her mouth were, "Oh yeah, we talked about that in Mr. Caliendo's class today." So he will be very missed, and I wish him all the luck and best will in his new placement.
So obviously, so let's take the vote and then make another comment here. I need a motion to accept the, accept the instructional resignation of Chris Caliendo.
So moved.
Second,
Seconded.
be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Garrison Union Free School District, upon the recommendation of Dr. Jackson, interim superintendent, hereby accepts the resignation of Christopher Caliendo, social studies teacher, effective the close of business June 30th, 2020. With regret, we accept this resignation. All in favor, say aye. Nays, abstentions, and the ayes regretfully have it. Mr. Caliendo, we wish you the very best, Chris. You know, I hope that, you know, the pervasive feeling in the district is that we want to be a growth. We want to be a school or an organization that, you know, fosters growth for everyone we can, and look for those potentialities within the district. And if not, you know, if one seeks to move out of district, we also want to support them too in their decision, although we'd like to hold everyone we can. Sometimes this happens. So let's move on so I don't get all teary-eyed. All right. Something much less inspirational and emotional. We have to authorize the appropriation of reserves. We have a, Dr. Jackson, can you articulate what's going on here for the public?
Basically, we have, just grab my paperwork here. I'm sorry about that. We basically have 2 resolutions here. The first one allows the district to use funds from the retirement system and debt service reserve to be used as revenue in the current, to balance the budget and the current fiscal year. So as you know, we always use revenue from reserves in order to balance our budget. And that's really making that move to ensure that we have the funds to close out the school year as needed. The second resolution has us replenish any reserves with any excess fund balance after the June 30th books are closed. Basically, we're required to keep our appropriated fund balances under 4%. That's required by law. So this will move that money to reserves in order to make sure we comply with the law. So Sue had reminded me that this really needed to take place in June with all that's going on with COVID. We missed it, so it's on this agenda. It should happen before we hit June 30th so that our books are set up for our auditors. So this is that balancing. And Sue's here if you want to speak to her.
So basically what we're doing is we are covering the books one way and the other way, the expenditures and the reserves, so that we're in compliance and that we have settled all of our concerns. I get it. All right. So we're covering the expenditures with one. Be it resolved that the board need a motion to accept appropriation of reserves.
So moved.
Second.
Seconded.
Be it resolved, the Board of Education of the Garrison Union Free School District hereby authorizes the appropriation of reserves as follows: $128,868 from the Retirement System Contributions Reserve Fund and $378,300 from the Debt Service Fund in the 2019-2020 General Fund to be used as revenue toward the 2019-2020 school budget. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Nays? Abstentions? Jocelyn's abstaining. And please note the abstention. And the ayes have it. Okay. Authorized funding of year-end reserves. Be it resolved, I need a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All right. Be it resolved, the Board of Education of the Garrison Union Free School District hereby authorizes the funding of the district's approved reserves with the excess of 4% from unappropriated fund balance at June 30th, 2020, after the designated amount of tax reduction has been set. The allocation of such excess fund balance will be determined subsequent to June 30th, 2020, and prior to setting the tax levy. All right, so this allows us to return that to 4%, right?
And return money, put money back into reserves again.
Back into the reserves, all right. So we have to authorize the movement of money. That's what we're doing here, okay? For one purpose and for another purpose. Each purpose, we have to authorize the movement. Okay. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Nays? Abstentions? Jocelyn's abstaining from the fiscal decisions today. No commentary needed.
No comment later.
Yeah, okay, great. Second reading of policy. Chair of the Policy Committee.
Certainly. So we're taking a second look at Title I, Parent and Family Engagement. Open it up to anyone. Hopefully you've had time to read through it, digest it. I can give my speech from last week again if you'd like, but I don't think that's
I just so that the public, if the public's tuning in now that they didn't hear it last time, if you can.
Certainly. So what this is, Title I, Parent and Family Engagement Policy is basically, we are required to do this by law, and Deborah, Dr. Jackson, please jump in at any point if you have commentary on this as well. It's part of the Title I audit we are undergoing. But what's really exciting about this policy is that it also talks about how we engage every family, every person, every community member. So the things we're looking at, there's a lot of places where you can customize within this document. We have added an equity audit, annual equity audit. So the board is requesting that the district does an equity audit of this to make sure that we are meeting the needs of our children equally. We have added childcare during parent-teacher conferences. We've added translation services that will be provided or offered instead of waiting for someone to request them in the languages that parents need them in. This includes our kindergarten orientation, our outreach to preschools, and things like that. So it's really about making sure we're reaching every family. And if there's other suggestions from the board of things that we need to add to this, other ways to customize, please speak up. Dr. Jackson, do you have anything to add to that?
Sorry, I muted. I think Courtney did, so I will let her. And this is a policy that really has you look at how do you engage your parents and make them partners in the work. And I think we've done a lot with that through the e-school process. It's very hard to be a primary parent and not have a good sense of what we're doing with students in the school. And so it's helping parents with all the tools they might need to engage with us, making sure we reach out to any parent who we haven't heard from for parent-teacher conferences, connecting with those parents, making ourselves accessible. And I think that's what the board felt strongly about when we started this conversation. It is going on now instead of with the group. I know you said that last time, Sarah and Courtney and Jocelyn, as you talked about this. And that's really because we need to complete the audit process, and this is a required policy. So we wanted to make sure that we have this in a timely manner to submit that. So thank you. And Courtney, I know, had her hand up. So I'll.
Just one thing that I wanted to add, even though we've discussed this, we worked on this in the committee meeting, but thinking about engagement of the school overall, we do a lot of focus on entering the school, kindergarten events and new students, and a lot at the end with 8th grade graduation. And I'm wondering, I would be interested in adding in another bullet item of having a moving up ceremony on the completion of 5th grade up to middle school. It is something that has sometimes been done, but not every year. I'm not talking about this year. This year was a complete anomaly. I know we do sometimes have have an event called Bridge Bash, which is more of a, I believe, introductory sort of almost school dance, fun event. But I think it's an important milestone that the students reach. And even though we are all in one building, a K-8 building, there's something to be celebrated upon the completion of elementary school and going into the new phases of middle school. And going forward, I think it would be really nice if we celebrated that in some way.
Yeah, Sarah.
Thank you. I think that's a great addition to this policy. I also think it's important that something like that, I know it's been done in the past, but in order for it to have it come from the district and be part of our district plan is really important, because that is what leads it to being inclusive of all students and making sure everyone has an equal opportunity to participate in it. So I would support seeing that added if there's this particular place you wanted to have it added. Dr. Jackson?
There's probably a few places, but I think the key is to put it in here now. And we can certainly put off for third reading, but on the last page, under D, coordinate and integrate to extend feasible and appropriate parent and family member engagement programs and activities, including the preschool and support and encourage parents and family members in more fully participating in the education of students. We have kindergarten registration, orientation. That might be one spot because we want to make sure we involve the parents fully. But I think there's a number of places that this can go. It could also go on, that's probably the key one for me. But certainly, Courtney, I'm sure you looked at this and have other ideas as well.
Dr. Jackson, may I ask, would this require a third reading or?
No, you can make an amendment. And also know that the designated parents we asked to look at this, they also thought they might have something in the future. And I did say at any time the board can look at this and put some other components in. So, but it would be perfectly fine at this point to make the amendment.
Thank you.
I think I need a motion for that.
No, I believe that's where I was looking. I'm looking back to see if I had made a note anywhere else, but that was, I believe, the section that makes the most sense. And as per usual, I will defer to your.
Well, that's my quick look at it. So.
Sounds good. I mean, we need a motion to, does anyone have any questions about what Courtney's asking for as far as an amendment goes? No. Okay. Then we need a motion to accept the language, the policy as amended, I guess, correct? Right. So as amended to include language of the middle school. All right, got it. So be it resolved, the Board of Education of the Garrison Union Free School District hereby approves policy 8260, Title I, Parent and Family Engagement, as amended to include language, middle school language promotion. Is that what we're calling that? What do you call that? Moving up ceremony, correct?
He said,
Thank you.
I would say, well, I would call it, moving up. I'll take Courtney's words for it because she said it as a moving up ceremony to support our students moving from elementary to the middle grades. So we'll just put it in we'll put the actual language in the policy.
I need a motion for that. Still haven't gotten a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Thank
I'll
you.
second
Second
it.
motion.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor of accepting the resolution as I stated? Raise your hand.
So moved. Or
Nays? All right, there we got it.
I do have one question now that we've accepted this and adopted it. Will it be published on the website for everyone to see soon and read through, or is that going to have to wait till we get everything published?
You have to open your mic. Sorry, Dr.
Bad,
Jackson.
I know it's a bad habit. Thank you. It will go on now. And it's actually been on as a policy to read. I do know though, with the policies as we're putting on them individual, they're very hard to find, but it'll go under parent information. So I am hoping that once this booklet, this pack, which I'll let you talk about that in committee, goes forward, that it'll then just be on there and it'll be findable through the on-site policy book under board docs. So yes, it'll go out there now as an adopted policy for people to see.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Discussion items. Committee updates. Obviously, the policy committee's been busy. Do you have any further updates? I think we're looking at a binder completion by the end of the year.
Yes, we've met this week and we jumped into the 8,000s, and I will get you what that is in just a second. But we are almost done with this binder. Next week, we will hopefully have one more meeting and finish up 8,000s, which are instruction. And then we hope to be able to send it off so that we'll have something for the full board to read. Now, once this goes off, and again, anyone else in the committee, Courtney, Jocelyn, Dr. Jackson, please jump in here if you have something to add to this. But the Erie One BOCES, which is the service we use, will review it, make sure that it matches law. The law continues to change, so that is one thing, because our policy needs to follow the state law. And then they will take our changes, send them back to us, and we will start doing readings of the full binder, which is really exciting reading. So I hope you guys are ready.
Holy moly. All right. So, okay, so anyone not on the committee, David, Matt, James, will have to read this thing, okay?
We
It's
should all
big.
make sure it reflects the changes we wanted, and to ensure that any changes that were added are noted as well based on the changes in the law.
It'll make as much linear sense as Infinite Jest. So there you go. All right,
That means
terrific.
you need to read two policy binders. You need to read the old one and the new one and compare them. Dr. Jackson shaking her head.
No.
I'm just trying to make James's life miserable.
I know, but you really will need to take the time to go through this.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work put into this, and a lot of, and there's a few major policies that require, as you know, community participation. We were set to run with those. People in the community were part of that. And then with COVID, it really needed to stop. So those policies, and I have them listed for the policy committee. We'll do them again next week. They need to be fully vetted and done properly as well. So in no way does the work being done say that we didn't address the community and those other policies. That's certainly on our plate to do. And those are major ones: code of conduct, RTI,
Wellness.
to say a few. So there's a few out there that we will need to really spend some time on and do well. So we're looking, I mean, I know the committee is looking forward to that too.
Do you have an update on the reopening task force or the reopening committee, whatever?
Yes, Carl and I, Mr. Albano and I spoke today, and the date for that is, let me just make sure, yes, next Thursday, the 25th. He's been terrific in putting that together. He met with our local expert, Frank Guglieri, and on that, put together some more information. I believe he and Jocelyn both attended a meeting at BOCES with a consultant who you all know. Thank you.
Costa, Jonathan
Thank you,
Costa.
Jonathan Costa, who had a lot to share. So that committee is getting kicked off with an overview on Thursday.
Right.
That invite's going out from him to everyone. The other committee that actually I can address as well, as long as you have me here, is design group. We're meeting on Tuesday, the 23rd in the afternoon, again via Zoom. Not all, but most of the architects and engineers were in the building yesterday, really going over those last minute details to make sure it's correct. There's a few things they just want to be sure we are aware of. So that's a meeting will be coming together. And I would expect they'll be on your next agenda, your next public agenda, to talk about the entire process and move that forward. So there's a few things that they just simply want to ensure that they've met all those components on, and they'll report out to you. So that meeting is Tuesday, the 23rd.
Terrific. Any other committee updates?
There's a webinar on the 24th about budgeting in an uncertain fiscal environment, which may provide insight for the finance committee.
Thank you. On what date is that, did you say?
That's on the 24th next week.
Yeah, the 24th is our executive session, and we're going to have the executive session. Just wanted to, there'll be no public comment at that meeting. It's so I just want to put that on the radar. Yes,
It's a
Sarah.
webinar during the day, though, I'm assuming?
Yeah. It's
Oh yeah. I just meant to.
Yeah, it's from noon to 1. Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to put that date in everyone's head. That's okay. Appointment versus election. This is another discussion item for the board vacancy. If the public doesn't know, we have a board vacancy due to a resignation for personal reasons, and we miss Jill, but it gives us an opportunity to consider how to proceed. As a body, we have what I understand is 3 options. 1, address the writing candidates or the winner of the writing candidates as a possible candidate to fill, as a possible appointee to fill the vacancy. Appoint someone through the solicitation of letters of interest. Appoint someone by looking back at previous letters of interest, or seeking a special election. For the purposes of our discussion, I asked, or someone asked, I think Sarah might have asked, or Dusty decided to, provide with us how much it costs to run a special election. How much does it cost, Dusty?
So for what we're looking at doing similar to what we just did, and there were some things obviously we wouldn't have to do again, it came in at about just over 5,800.
Right, so democracy is not cheap, not super expensive, but it costs money. So that's a lot of envelopes, printing, and then distribution of those envelopes. And also we're paying for postage to and fro, right? Because it's a mail-in, so it doubles our mailing costs.
Is also
Legal fees, right? Okay.
Legal notices in the newspapers. The newspapers charge us for legal notices, and that's actually a good piece of this as well.
Okay, I see. So we have to post when we're doing something like this, and that costs money. And that's low HUD, right? In PCNR?
Yes, those are your official newspapers.
Right. Highlands Current doesn't qualify yet, does it? Because they don't have enough subscribers or distribution or something, right?
I don't think so.
Okay.
That historically, those are the two that you have had.
Right. I know. Okay. So, how would we like to proceed with this particular discussion? Who would like to start us off? Sarah, do you have a?
I have a clarifying question first.
Sure.
When you say the cost for putting it in the newspapers, if we decided to accept letters of interest, would that also require posting in the papers?
I'll just answer that one very quickly.
Thank you.
Basically, the cost of a special election requires that you put the legal notices in each official paper that you put in place. It requires that you obviously do the ballots, all of that. But if you are going to appoint, that would simply be the cost that you would take on. So it may be a mailing, you would decide what that would be. So this cost is solely for a special election. And if it was, and we're assuming it would still be absentee ballot, not in person. So that's the assumption with this cost run.
David, do you have a view on this?
Well, it's just this. We had this situation last fall, wasn't it? When we solicited letters and we got whatever 5 or 6, and we decided to appoint Matt and Jocelyn. And since that's kind of a precedent, I wonder why we would deviate from that approach in this case.
Well, we don't have to. The question is why would the question is to provide you all with the options that you have. The other concern that you might think about is we might choose to do that, but I just want you all to be, to inform you about some of the rationales as well as, your choices. One of the rationales is that Jocelyn and Matt were appointed after after resignations that occurred post-election, by about 3 months or so. We had an election in May, we had resignations in July, so about 2.5 months or something. And then we had 2 months or so. So then we appointed, right? And we took our time with those appointments. We didn't get around to appointing, I think, till like September, October, correct? Is that when you all joined? Right. So it didn't make any sense to go to an election. But here we have a resignation right on the heels, prior to a vote, that is to say. So that because our vote was delayed from May into, June, where it's a little different. So the question is whether you want, I guess one concern would be the democratic process, to give the people the chance to elect somebody. The other argument would be perhaps that because that you're building too much of a precedent of appointing, right? That would be concerned that you're not allowing for people to run. That's an argument I don't agree with necessarily, but that is an argument that's out there. Sarah?
So I've been thinking about this, and instead of just, I know we have to have this discussion, regardless if we follow the same path we went on last year as our due diligence. But last year we were in a different position as well, because we had the capital project vote coming up, and it was, if you recall, it was
all right,
too close to that voting in to get names collected to run for those open seats. It would not have been possible given the timing. And we did have the district clerk at the time look into that. And then to run a second special election process in addition to the one in September was deemed really not feasible for a district of our size, and not recommended by council. The reason to move away from the practice, I think, in the past is that I'm not sure I'm comfortable with the precedent it sets of constantly appointing someone to the board instead of giving them the chance to run. And having thought about this for a little bit, personally, I'm leaning towards, the cost of $5,800. is it worth it to follow the democratic process through and have people run for this seat, and allow people, the public, to vote for them and select them in a democratic way? That's where I'm going, but I'd love to hear from everyone else too, to your thoughts. And I'm not set in any particular way.
Thoughts that people have? Matt looks like he's chewing on something over there, chewing on a thought. One, like, you know, I'd like to be devil's advocate here. So one argument would be that, hey, man, we just had an election. You had your chance to run, you know, like, why didn't you throw your hat in against Courtney and Jocelyn, you know? So I'm just, you know, Sarah, I'm just being devil's advocate here. I mean, like, that, I totally feel that, but at the same time, it's an elected situation. You have to run against people to get the seat. And if people don't want to do that because the seat's full, it's not a restaurant, you know. You go in, you get the seat. If you want to be on the board, you run against somebody to beat them. And that's the way it should be. That's the democratic process, not waiting for, it's not Soviet style appointing, you know, as David likes to call our process. You know?
If someone's appointed, does it then automatically, are they then up for election the way Jocelyn and I were the following spring?
No, they have to fill out the term, correct?
No, it would be a, actually, Dusty, you're right. They would be picking up a 1 year. They have to run. So they aren't automatically wouldn't run, but they would have to opt to do what you did.
Right.
To put your name in, to be a candidate, to do that. And then they would fill that seat. If not,
Right.
Off at
Well,
the other person would be in.
That would be an argument for saving the money if there's going to be an election next summer anyway, and then we can just sort of throw that into the election, then we get the democracy, but we get to just sort of appoint them temporarily for a year, and then they can run and other people can run next summer without having another election in between now and then. So we, in some ways, might be able to have our cake and eat it too. I guess you can make an argument that once you have an incumbent, it becomes easier for them to just sort of stay. So certainly that would be a counterpoint to what I just said.
But okay, so what are you saying? You're not sure yet, Matt?
Yeah, I mean, I'm absorbing it, but I would lean in the direction of saving the money, given all the angst about money right now. But I'm not, I mean, I hear these other points loud and clear. They're good points. David, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, it's okay. You know, I think I would be, if I felt that there was a groundswell of interest in the community to have an election on this, I would respond. I would, that would make a difference to me. I don't think it's there. I mean, I just don't get a sense that there's a huge amount of interest in this question. And I think so, unless I heard from, and there are people out there who are watching this meeting and who feel strongly about it, I'd love to hear from you. We would love to hear from you. Failing that, any sign of community interest on it, I think I would go with, I mean, I understand the democratic process, and I really, and in spite of what's been happening in our world, I really believe in it. But I don't know, I would save the money and then have an election next June. That's what I would do.
May, but okay.
Sorry. Oh, this is Jocelyn, but my
hi, Jocelyn. I know you're
it's
here.
Unstable, so I had to turn the video off again. But I just wanted to say that I hadn't thought of Matt's point, or the fact that if someone were appointed, it would be just until the May election again.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I'm not sold on any which choice yet, but I think it made a good point, Matt. And then David, you seconded it.
What point did Matt make that was good? And
I
I don't mean
thought
to be facetious. I was like, what do you? He made a couple points. That's all.
He made many. He always makes many.
He makes
points,
excellent points,
right? Okay, but no, just the idea that yes, we can appoint, because in May, when the citizens and the public
I see.
want to come forth and potentially run on a ballot, there's the opportunity not too far away for residents to participate in that process again.
Yeah. Yes, Sarah.
I also want to, and Courtney, jump in here if because you haven't gotten a chance to speak, but I also wanted to point out the idea of, because we do have the third option of appointing, or I'm not sure if appoint is the right word because they were a write-in, the candidate who was the write-in, who won the write-in vote. I would have concerns depending on how many write-ins it was. If it's just, if it's less than 10% of the people voted for even less than 5, does that really represent, is that really representative of the community?
Right. There are several write-ins. I think our current president of the country got 1 vote. The vice president got 1 vote. The Rock got a vote. And another candidate got 2 votes who happens to be eligible. So,
I agree with
my knowledge, I think they're eligible. Yeah.
I agree with Sarah's point for those reasons. And also, when people they didn't know that this was going to be an option. So it's kind of like retroactively applying meaning to an election, but that nobody knew had meaning when they were voting. So it doesn't feel right to me to sort of assign meaning to a write-in.
Unless it was a constituent.
Yeah, this goes back to David's point. Had there been an obvious groundswell,
Right.
then yes, I would want to respond to that. But if there's a person with 2 votes and The Rock and other people, it seems like people didn't go into it thinking, oh, this write-in vote matters because there's a vacancy that we need to fill.
Deborah, you've had a lot of experience, much more than any of us. What's your recommendation on this?
And my recommendation is it's really a board decision. And I hate to say that, but it really is. You know your community better than I do. I've been here 6 months. You know how it best works to function. It really is. This is one of those items where the best I can do is give you those options. I did not know about the option of the highest vote getter until we were asked to make sure we outlined what we needed to do. And that's when that came to light. So that was actually a new one on me as well. And you certainly, if you have questions on that, I'm sure the attorneys can speak with you on that. But the other 2, I've seen districts make different decisions, different timing, different reasons. As you said last year, with already having a vote, putting 2 in a row, timing in terms of when it falls, you're talking about really a full year. So that's something as well. It's really a board. This is really unique to what the board thinks is best for this community and for what's best for the functioning of this board as well. You have a lot on your plate going forward. So you need to sort of balance all of that, David.
One other argument against it, and now I'm coming out like I'm strongly against it. I'm actually not. I'm very open to all these points, but I do think in the COVID context, it's added labor. We were just thanking people for all the extra work, and it's stressful work in this context. And it feels like if the decision is relatively low stakes, if there will be another election, then I'm hesitant to give people more work at the post office and to have Dusty and everyone doing more in the COVID context, given that everyone's nerves are already frayed by COVID. It seems like an opportunity to save people some COVID specific labor.
So one thing that I would absolutely not be okay with is to take seriously the fact that one person outpolled President Trump and The Rock by 1 vote. I mean, that's not serious.
Just to be clear, there were a number of other qualified single votes. So there was actually.
Yeah, okay, but I mean,
want to be absolutely,
but I think that what Matt was saying, that I mean, I totally agree with that. That people didn't understand that this was a serious. I don't think anybody really thought that who they wrote in was going to be a potential candidate for a serious candidate for board membership. So I mean, that feels,
they may not have asked.
Feels really weird to me. I mean, to take that option. So I would personally vote against that option.
Okay, so one other idea here is to, if the board decided they wanted to go with an election, okay, that gives you an opportunity to create a ballot. And if you create a ballot, then you can put things on the ballot that you might want to vote on, for instance. So if you wanted to ever put in front of the public to reduce the size of the board or to expand the size of the board, this would be the time to do it, because you can't have that vote when you have, during your normal election cycle, because you can't put people up to vote for seats that you are voting to not exist, if that makes any sense, right? So if you ever wanted to expand the board or reduce the size of the board, you could do it with a special ballot measure like this. This is a moment you could do that. If you want, if you put it in front of, if you wanted to go the route of the special election. I'm just putting that out there. If you had another thing to vote on, do you put that, you know, sometimes we have special elections, right? Special ballots for a lot of reasons. So
You want us to make a decision tonight on this question?
we don't have to. The other thing is we don't have to decide at this moment. We can kick it to another meeting and, or, you know, think about it for a while and then make a decision, or we can make a decision on what we want to do. Like we're going to appoint, we could make a decision now and say we would like to appoint somebody and then come up with a process and then announce the process at a future meeting and then go through the process.
But we're not going to make this decision in executive session. That's the point, right? This is a public.
No, we got to do it public.
So then I would propose that we invite people to apply and that we consider the letters that were submitted in the last go round and ask the public if anybody else wants to apply for this round.
You would like to open it
I'm making
up.
a motion that we follow that procedure, that we invite applications and we consider ones that we looked at last time, because there were a number of good candidates last time.
Anybody have any thoughts on David's proposition here?
I think if somebody applied last time, we might want to ask them to send in a letter of interest again, just to signal that they are still interested and why. I don't know as though including, I have questions about including the letters without talking to them or ensuring that they're interested from the past. But if we have concerns about holding another election, I would be open to having that process and reviewing the letters. I believe there is a legal requirement of days. Is that correct, Dr. Jackson? As to we have to do something within a certain amount of time.
Yes, I'll let Dusty, because we've been through that a few times now. Go ahead, Dusty.
So you have up to 90 days to either appoint or hold an election. Because with an election, you have to begin to have your legal notices appear 45 days before the vote itself. Then you would have to, you know, obviously start soon enough or make that decision soon enough that you could move forward. You have to have 4 legal notices appear within 45 days prior to the vote.
Does the 90 days start from the date of resignation?
Yes, I believe so.
So the clock is already ticking in a sense because we've been absent a member towards the election.
Yeah.
I think 2 weeks or 1 week, right?
June 4th was the effective date.
June 4th. Okay.
Thank you.
So we have time. The question is when do we want to begin? You know, the question, so there are 2 things, what we want to do and when we want to do it. Whatever we do, I definitely think we need to take time to figure out how to, given the COVID context that we're operating in, this remote context, how we're going to properly orient a new member. I think that's super important. If we go with an appointee, that they go through, you know, the state training, but that's remote now. There's no in-person stuff going on, which is, you know, kind of a bummer in some ways. And then whatever we want to do as a group, as a board, to orient a new member in a more, I don't know, cognizant fashion or conscious fashion, you know, given that we're not going to be sitting in a room, you know, getting to know each other, right? And we're going to have to do this all, you know, the way that we've had to onboard Carl, like to get to know Carl, we're going to need a similar kind of pattern. Yeah.
I have to say, as a recently oriented board member, I think that you all did a good job.
You still stayed on. All right. So the conversation on the deck didn't throw you. Yeah. Okay. All right. So, but I do think, yeah, I think that's true. It's just that the distance thing's a little different, right? So, all right. I don't know. Court, do you have any thoughts?
I was just about to raise my hand. Thanks. This is one of the reasons I really like our board so much, is that I really like these conversations. I like that we can talk about different ideas, agree, disagree. We're all sort of processing it together. I was quiet because I really wanted to hear all the different possibilities, and I'm undecided. I guess I would push to table it for till one more meeting, for us all to think about through all these options. I think but personally, I also agree that another election is, I would prefer not to hold another election. It's between cost, financially, cost of resources, people. I think we are all might get election fatigue, particularly this year. And
Oh yeah, there's a little thing called a November election, and if this has to happen there might be some problems with that whole. We might be busy. I forgot about that.
right.
Yeah.
And agreed with, I don't remember whether it was Sarah or Matt who made the point of, considering writing candidates, nobody knew. We didn't know what was going into that. I happen to know personally, my husband always takes my youngest child into the voting booth, and they always write in some wacky candidate. So without any intention of it ever actually reaching a board of people to discuss. But you bring up good points related to COVID. We need to think about, as we have with all of our decisions over the last 3 months, of how to take steps in this new environment.
Can board members mute their mic so we don't get the slow drag?
Yeah, I think that actually was my road traffic you were hearing from my own microphone. But anyway, so officially, I'm proposing that we table this. We all go off and we think about it. We do some research. We think about how we really feel, and come back together in the next meeting to discuss.
So there's two motions. One is to take David's motion, and the other one is to take some time to think about David's motion. Basically, the longer we wait, the more it's a fait accompli, right?
We're gonna basically eliminate. I mean, trying to think, because if you're thinking 90 days, you've got June, July, and August basically. So your election would need to be held in the beginning of September, end of August. Is that correct?
Yes, and I'll go through and figure out the exact days so we know exactly where we're at, what we're talking about.
I do. I mean, I think I like the election idea in concept. I have trouble with that timing. I realize just practically for our community over summer break, this is going to be a challenging summer regardless. And to have ballots in the mail, ballots coming back, even getting the nominees in place, having people express interest. Is it self-nominated? That was done by a very special process. So while I would hope more people step forward and really express an interest in what I find to be a wonderful, engaging, exciting thing to do, is to volunteer to be on the school board. I do see the merits in appointing again as well, especially given our time frame.
Yeah, I mean, here's the deal, right? If we decide now to do an election, it wouldn't happen for a while. And by that time, the argument is, well, it's only a 7-month position, so might as well appoint, because you're going to have a vote. So, so there's a kind of weird logic. The longer you wait on an election, the longer you have to kick it further out, the more the argument to have the election doesn't evaporates.
I might be
because,
wrong.
you're just getting closer to the next election.
I might be wrong, but Dusty might clarify with me, but I think if you had an election, they'd be running for the unexpired seat. So they would continue for 2 years, I believe. So if you elect it, if you appoint, then they're only here for till the next election. But if you vote, and
That's
I'm not
correct.
proposing you do that. I'm just explaining that they would actually have a 2-year seat if they ran.
Yeah, if they had an election, we'd be electing them to a 2-year seat. If we appoint, we can only appoint to the next viable election. David?
So I'm going to actually, for the first time ever, I'm going to speak against Courtney's motion. Because I really sense that there's a kind of a, I know, we'll make up. I think we're, what I'm picking up in here, and maybe I'm wrong, and please tell me if I am, but I think there's a consensus here. I haven't heard anybody argue for the write-in candidate or for that procedure. I don't think people really want to do an election. And we're at a place now where people, at least some people, are going to be leaving for the summer relatively soon. And I'd like to get this thing, I'd like to give people as much opportunity as we can give them to consider whether they want to apply for this and be considered. I don't know that much is gained by putting this off for another vote, but it's okay with me, but I just don't see the point of it. Because I think we kind of are at a consensus point.
No, I would say that's fair. I guess my concern would be, or concern is not the right word, but do we need to decide on all the parameters tonight of how we do that, or just simply saying, we're saying that we would not hold a vote, that we would not use the write-in candidate, but that we are opening it up for letters of interest. And we go from there. Is that right? And do we have that wrong? Is there anybody who is still pro, who wants to hold out the possibility of holding an election?
I'll jump in. Because I think I'm one of the voices for the election. I think the timing and the COVID environment really is the key factors for me in this decision. I do, however, I would hate to see it become practice for the board to continuously appoint. I don't think that is healthy. I think it limits who comes and joins. But in terms of opening up for letters, which does sound like what we need to do in these circumstances, I believe we had a process last time that was dictated to us, and Dusty, you might be able to jump in here and help with this, where how we set a time frame for people to send in letters, it was posted, how it was done. I'm guessing there's a record of that from Mrs. Murphy's files as well.
Yes, I'm sure there is. And you're still going to be within a timeline to have to even do that piece. Even if you're going to appoint, you still have to maintain a timeline in order to do that. You're going to have to do that within, you can do it before the 90 days is up, obviously, but within that 90-day time frame.
There is we do have a retreat coming up, and it would, if it is possible, I don't think so. That might be too close a time frame. I'm actually thinking just working where I am in the calendar, which now that school is out, I have lost track of days because I no longer have to count them every day for attendance. But I think that might be even too close to get somebody appointed. But perhaps even for the August, or at least the start of the school year, we would be on that time frame.
I lost her. Did anyone lose her? So you're saying it's just too close?
I'm sorry. I was saying that it would be if we take in letters and appoint, there's, I think, a merit to perhaps having somebody in time for our retreat so that they are able to hear all the information presented at the retreat. However, playing out the calendar in my head, I'm wondering if that's just not practical due to the amount of executive sessions it will take to do this debate, and also the amount of time we need to put in with regard to we have to, we have to get the letters considered. I think we need to give people a few weeks. I'm trying to remember how many weeks we gave them last time to write their letters. There's a consideration of, do we just read the letters and then do we meet with the candidates as we did last time? Or given the COVID environment, do we not hold meetings and we just read the letters, review as a board and make a decision, which is also an option. Because I understand how uncomfortable a Zoom meeting as such would be for all of the people who perhaps wish to join the board.
Okay, so we have I think there's a consensus forming, if I can summarize, that we should go with a soliciting letters of interest for a appointed position to from the time of appointment to the next election, correct? So that is agreed upon. The question is timing and mechanics of that process. We are still questioning. In other words, ideally, you would want someone to hop right in at the reorg meeting, go off to the retreat, and we all get to know each other and everything's wonderful. The reality is we might not have the time to truly read the letters or, allow people to figure out whether they want to do this or not. Or, a lot of people want to do it, but they don't necessarily, once they get into the conversation about what it means, they might not want to do it. So that's a real question. So, that's where we're at. I don't know how to, perhaps what we can do is we can make the decision that we're going to, today we can make the decision that we're going to appoint and that we'll entertain letters. But the mechanics of that, the procedure of that will need to be laid out. Perhaps a subcommittee of the group of the board can come up with that process. Like, what's a fair process? And then pose it to the board. And then we can announce it. We can publicly announce it.
James, I'd be happy even just to look into it if that helps everyone.
Well, I just don't know where I think where we are is that, it doesn't seem like the timeline is such that I think we need to discuss the mechanics of the process. Is that fair? Because we're not clear yet. We need a recommendation on the process.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm just getting impatient, but this seems very simple to me. I mean, people we're letting the community know that we have an open seat. People can send us a letter or however long they want to make it. Tell us about themselves. Tell us why they want to be on the board. And we'll look at them and we will, if possible, have interviews or not. I mean, if people want to be interviewed on Zoom, we can do that. If they'd rather not, we don't have to do that. I mean, I just don't think this is worth spending weeks to get this thing in motion. I mean, maybe I'm missing something here, really.
I think you're missing the calendar. We have an executive session on the 24th. We have a reorg meeting that takes forever on the 8th, and we got a retreat on the 20-something. And when this person comes, we're trying to figure out when this person should come on board, and when do we. That means if we want this person to come in on reorg July 8th, we're going to have to get the letters. That means you have to post it. So there's a certain amount of calendarizing the situation. That's the sort of thing that we have to figure out how to do. Yeah, Court.
I've just been going back through old notes and emails. And the process last year took approximately 2 months. So it doesn't actually have to take that long, but I think the odds of having a new person appointed for the reorg meeting is not realistic. So I think we should just wipe that away. Let's step aside. Let's look at the calendar separately, but let's say that we are all agreed. We should put out a statement as we did before. I can pull it up. I can work with Sarah about what we did before, putting out a statement along with Dr. Jackson and Dusty's help of asking for letters of interest. I think most likely we are going to be interviewing on Zoom, given the fact that we just interviewed for a superintendent position on Zoom. We are unfortunately way too accustomed to doing it this way. We can continue to do it that way. And look at the possibilities of the calendar.
Dr. Jackson, I'm sorry, but we don't have to do interviews, do we? Is that, it's not a requirement. We could just read the letters as well. Was my point. I don't know if we want to do that, but it's an option.
I think that, listen, I actually want to take a step back, but I think what David's saying is that you could tonight decide you're going to appoint. That would give people time, even tonight, to know that that's something you're thinking about. That kind of that gets the word out, and then the process can be really wrapped up very quickly. How long it'll take for you to actually finish that's a question. But I think you can certainly tonight make a motion that your plan is to appoint, and you will solicit people. But yes, you don't have to interview. You can just do paper.
Okay.
All of that. You have lots of options.
And I don't feel any compulsion to wind this thing up by the reorg meeting. I think the idea is to get the word out there and let people consider whether they want to do this.
Okay. Can you hear me okay? How's that? Better? Okay. So what I'm hearing then is that do we have I guess the question is there a date we want people to send things back to? Can we decide that later? Or we can decide that now? Because we have to post it.
Let's decide it now.
Post it.
Only give 2 weeks. Is that too short?
I don't know. What's today? 18th?
I will note that Dr. Jackson is nodding her head. That is too short.
I think I am nodding my head. I think the whole point that I was trying to make was if you make it public now, you are going to do that. That gives more time to get the word out. So, yes, I'd give yourself more time to get people to get that information out, because even if we did it Blackboard, we're only reaching parents, and you do need to try to reach the community. I think that's the process I'm hearing from Courtney we want to put together. I was just simply saying to let people know now that you're doing that would at least start the conversation.
How about July 8th? Is that our reorg meeting? Is July 8th our reorg meeting?
Yes, July 8th is our reorg meeting.
Then let's just do that. Let's make that the day. And then we can, that's fine. All right. That means we can at least start the process. I just don't think, it's, all right. We go with that? Okay. We're in agreement with that. Excellent. Consensus has been reached. That took longer than I thought. All right. Discussion items. We're done with that. Public comment. Is there any public comment? If you have a public comment, you'll in there. Comments? Do you see any comments? Dr. Jackson, you good? All right. I think she froze.
There's no comments and there's no Q&A that I see. Am I still frozen?
Okay, nothing in the Q&A?
No.
You're good. All right. Okay. Board member comments. Board member comments? David?
So, Dr. Jackson, I'm sure that by now you're sick and tired of hearing us tell you how thrilled we've been to have you with us. And so I'm not going to go there, but I'm just going to say that I think, especially in speaking for Carl, who I haven't discussed this with, having you here to help him, bring him up to speed on what's happening in this school and what's happening in this district really has been a priceless gift. And I'll tell you how amazing it's been to have you here and how much we appreciate it.
Well, thank you all. And it's honestly been a pleasure to be able to have these conversations with Carl as well. He's remarkable. It's been wonderful. You may remember the first time we actually sat and talked. We talked, I think, for a full day. And I think that's because there was much to share. And he's just been committed and engaged. And I'm excited about your new leadership. And thank you, David. I do love this board too, which I will make sure you all know, every one of you, sincerely.
All right, James walked away, so I'm going to jump in
Or
here.
yeah, I got you. I got you. I got to turn on the light at this most inopportune time.
Getting really tired. I'll end with Dr. Jackson. Our 8th graders are graduating, I believe
Yes.
on Monday, is that correct? And I wanted to congratulate all our 8th graders, congratulate their families. And also, I know so many people in our district work so hard to make that graduation ceremony possible in this environment. So I want to say thank you to our Mr. Levine, to Dr. Jackson, and everyone else who's been a part of that process. And I also received my yearbook today, and I wish to thank the yearbook staff for all the effort they put into it. It was really lovely to see a collection of the whole year, including the departure into remote learning. And I will end with a thank you to Dr. Jackson. I'm sincerely going to miss working with you, and say that I'm so excited to start working with Mr. Albano on July 1st. I really can't wait. He's been a part of our meetings, which has been wonderful. And I think it has been a very smooth transition. Thank you both. If we could keep you both, we would. Although
I've got a plan for that. Yeah. Other board comment. Thank you, Sarah. I'm going to be, evidently, the board president usually attends graduation, so I will be at the graduation ceremony. And there will be a ceremony of sorts. And I just want to say that the superintendent also is usually there. And Dr. Jackson has given up her seat so that Kevin Keegan can be there on the stage and address the graduates. So that'll be a surprise. I hope I'd let that out of the bag, but I just want to
Never missed a graduation. And as you know, in COVID, we can't have you all there and everyone there. There's a limit. So I'm excited that Kevin will be there for the students that he cares so much about. It would not be graduation for them without him there. So it was a pleasure. I'm sure they understand that the reason is really to support him. He's just been remarkable. And James will be there representing the board. And I know if it was under normal circumstances, you all would be there. So it is Monday. The rain day is Tuesday. It says there'll be a pretty heavy storm on Monday. And if that's the case, we will have to go to Tuesday. We'll see. And Kathy Clark has really led this. I mean, lots of people have been worked on it, but I have never seen anyone work so hard to make sure every detail is taken care of. So it's been, it'll be a wonderful event. So James will have to tell, it should be live streamed, so we should be able to all see and watch from home. But
That's
James,
great. And yeah, I wanted to thank everybody that's this has been a roller coaster of an event. You know, graduation is always a bit of a show, and putting things together is difficult. But this one in particular, because you had all kinds of, restrictions and, brought on by the governor and new guidelines every week, something came up. It's been really a moving target, and they've done a fantastic job. That's about it. I mean, well, the other thing is that I would add is just, this is a time of change for a lot of people. Change is something that we can look at and we can, get nervous about. There's some shifting staff, obviously, for the fall, but it's really also an opportunity to see what can happen. And I think that really has to be the way we think about change in this particular environment, that this is an opportunity to make the best out of the opportunities that we have. And change is one way of doing it. So new people coming on board in the fall, advertisements are out for 3 positions in the middle school. And Mr. Albano has been working on a hiring procedure already and is ready to go. So we're all set. And I think that we have a good process, a good vetting process, a good hiring process. And I'm looking forward to the results of that. I know everyone's a little unnerved by the change, but I think that the important thing is to think about the potentialities of what the future looks like. And I think if we can keep our head there, we'll persevere. Okay, that's all I got. I need a motion to move to executive session.
So made.
Need a second?
Moved.
All right.
It'll be short, I promise.
Be it resolved, the Board of Education adjourns to executive session for the purpose of discussing the employment history of particular employees. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Nays, abstentions? Jocelyn, you good? All right, here we go.
Okay, I will stop the recording.
Thank you, and let us